I'm Robert, and today, like you saw in the title, I'm going to be going over my 2019 to 2020 school year at Kansas State University in design school.
And I was like, yo.
So, I'm going to start with my acceptance. I applied in February to study physics. I wanted to be a theoretical physicist. I still do, but I think that's a later project in my life. Um, and what ended up happening is I applied wrong. I applied for high school physics. I didn't find that out until when I went to visit the Architecture Planning and Design College. When they looked at um, my application, they're like, "Well, you didn't apply to our college. You applied to high school physics." And I was like, "That must be wrong. I did not apply to that." But apparently I did. Dummy dumb. So I talked to the director. So I applied to the college and then I applied to the waitlist. The waitlist was about 50 people long ahead of me at that time, and they gave no guarantee of whether I would get in or not. They said they could give me a result by August, by the time school started. So I stayed enrolled at Wichita State to study physics in case that didn't go through. Luckily, it did, but they gave me 24 hours to respond to the letter they sent me that they sent at like the very beginning of August, maybe, or like very late July. They were like, "You have 24 hours to respond. Are you coming or not?" And I was like, "Oh no." And I was like, "Yes, we're going. Like, this is the plan. I've got to do this. Let's go to design school." So that's what happened. Then I went through all the shenanigans of choosing a dorm, choosing a place to stay. I chose Weefald Hall. There's a lot of stuff to unpack about that, but I think that's best for a video later. I don't know how much I'm going to milk out this topic of college. Hopefully not too long, because I have projects that I want to do and film and record, so I won't drag this out too much. So let's get right into it. So for those of you who don't want to sit through the whole video, I'm going to do just some quick takeaways for you to know. So who would like design school? Well, people who already have an interest in design, but also people who are very curious. If you're curious about like the world and curious about what things look like, what the origins of some of the history of everything is, or if you want to know about the design fundamentals that go into the products you know and love and the things you interact with every day, it's an excellent thing to do is to go to design school because you'll get a lot more insights that you wouldn't in some other majors. So I chose industrial design, as you know, and if you are between industrial design and something like an engineering course, but you're not quite sure if you want to go for more of the technical or the design route of both of these disciplines, then I'll give you why I chose industrial design and not something like engineering. I'm very capable at the math, so for me it wasn't a decision of whether I'm good at math or not. For me it was a decision of whether I was passionate about what they would be focusing on the most. And in mechanical engineering, I did not really find my passion there. It wasn't, well, not really find passion. I didn't find what I was looking for. I wanted to do design, I wanted to make things look cool, and I wanted to make cool things that people could interact with. And in mechanical engineering and other engineering disciplines, they don't teach you the fundamentals of design in depth like they do in the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design at K-State. And they don't teach you the fundamentals of like what is ergonomic, what is good. So, in what my professor said in my studio for first year, which really stuck with me, is engineers can make an excellent car, a great car, the best car you can imagine, but it won't fit a human. It's not designed for humans. Engineers design machine first, designers design human first. So we're designing how humans interact with objects. And I guess, that's a huge factor in why I chose industrial design and design discipline over an engineering discipline. So why did I choose physics? Why did I choose design instead of physics? It was an easy choice. Physics takes a long time to get to something interesting, and I wasn't really looking to do physics alone. I wanted to do it paired with something else. Unfortunately, the program I'm in takes a lot of time, so I could do a double major in physics, but I wouldn't get as far as I could if I just did it alone. So that's why I said it's more of a future project. We'll see later on if I want to continue or not. And then why did I choose K-State? It's close and they have a design program. That's basically why I chose it. There's no big secrets, though I do recommend it to anyone I can. It's such a great school. I recommend it more for in-state and for people who are already in Kansas because it's an excellent school for the price when you're paying in-state tuition, but there's plenty of scholarships they offer to people out of state, as well as it's a very nationally renowned school for some of their programs. For landscape, if you're going to do landscape architecture, then it is top 4, I believe, in the country overall, and top 2 for public schools in the country. So it's great for landscape. Industrial design is a new program, so they don't have a ranking yet, but it has the same excellent and prestigious professors as the rest of the programs, and a very solid foundation in physically making your projects and making things yourself and not just conceptualizing and designing theoretical stuff. So semester 1 of design school is very abstract. So all of our projects are about space or spatial fields. There's no walls, there's no homes, there's no buildings, there's no landscape. It's all spatial fields, all abstract, all lofty ideas of what space is and what it means to create a space, which is fundamental to all of the design courses or all the design careers in the architectural planning and design college, because we're designing spaces no matter if they're a small mouse or phone or computer or car, or all the way up to skyscrapers or parks on massive scales. We're all creating space at some scale, so we need to learn how to design space without these concepts of what is height or what is width, where does the person go, what is this space. It's just designing what a space would look like and spatial elements that aren't tied to physical, I guess, experiential concepts that we already know. So let's get into school stuff. How was school like? So I'm going to start with our first project. As you can see on the screen, it's the pepper project. A lot of my classmates will cringe when they hear that. It was a really assignment. We had no idea what we were doing. We were just thrown into design school, and they're like, yeah, do peppers, you know? Make a section, an elevation, multiple angles and views, draw it as detailed as you can, but you're not allowed to measure. You're just supposed to look at it and, you know, draw it freehand, basically. Make the whole pepper and do like a cool page layout with hand lettering, which is still difficult for me, but I did all of my projects hand lettered basically until we went online later on. That was a cool project to do, but it was very daunting because we just launched straight into it. The next project we did was the International Student Center and the Kemper Amphitheater. It was kind of a combined project, and its main focus was on diagrams. So that's something you'll hear a lot in design school is diagrams, 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 diagrams. When you first go in, you have no idea what diagrams are. I'm going to put up a video that talks about diagrams in depth and talks about what they are, because I finally figured out after my final project what diagrams are and how to make them and make them look good. But they basically convey information in a visual format. So the International Student Center and the Kemper Amphitheater, the diagrams we had to do, there were required diagrams as well as diagrams that we could choose from our own. Those are the hardest ones to do because I had no idea what I wanted to choose. The ones that we had to do were still difficult to find out what align and what diagrams fit in place. The Kemper Amphitheater was a little bit more simple, but it was also, I guess, difficult at the same time. The International Student Center was very difficult because the design what we were analyzing was a courtyard, and there wasn't very much there to analyze. It was just a couple of pillars, an overhang, and a square. I mean, now if I look at it, I would be like, yeah, I can see this. It makes more sense now. But back then, you know, it just didn't make sense. So then our first actual proper exercise, we go by exercise numbers, was exercise 1. So exercise 1, we had to make small models of just spaces and then put them onto a spatial field and have the 3 spatial fields linked together to make one solid form. I kind of got carried away when we were making study models at first, which is something we always start projects with, is making small models of what our design would look like in a vague sense. Nothing too detailed. It's things that you slap together. The messier the better. Basically, if you can crank out a bunch of design variations and make them intelligible when someone looks at them, it's excellent. Just make as many study models as you can. Same thing with sketches. Sketch as much as you can. It's excellent for showing your professors what you mean, and also making better and smarter decisions on what you want to do for that particular project. So this one had a little hiccup. Basically, in the project, me and some friends were planning on going out for an excursion over the. Scooch back there. Someone came downstairs. Gotta be quiet. Um, so, in this project, we had to make small little enclosures on a spatial field. And there was a little hiccup in the beginning. I had plans to go out with some friends to have some fun over the weekend, going boating or swimming, stuff like that. But our professor last minute told us, was like, you make 21 models. Or it wasn't, she didn't say the number of models, she said a vague like conglomeration of what kinds of models we had to make. And by our calculations, it was 21 to 36. So it was a huge amount of models. And we were all panicking. It was Friday night at like 12 p.m. We were like, we don't know what we're doing. We have to make 21 models of this by Monday to show her. And I mean, it was not a good time. We spent the whole weekend to make models. They ended up coming out good. I loved my models. I thought they were great. And they were in some way, in like one form or another, ready for final production, basically. But on Monday, when we got back, she was like, oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you. You made all these models, but you can't use any of them because they're all curvilinear, but you're supposed to make orthogonal, which basically means we made curves, and she wanted angles, like straight angles, just 90 degrees. It was heart-wrenching when we found that out on Monday. We were all like, this was a serious waste of time, and the rest of the semester is only going to get worse and worse because we'll have less and less time to go out on the weekends to do stuff because we'll have more and more projects to get done. So yeah, that was exercise 1. It went well, but still, it was kind of wacky. Cool. So exercise 2, this was a long line. Basically, it spanned from exercise 2 to exercise 4. And what ended up happening is I chose something for exercise 2 that carried all the way through to exercise 4. I didn't know it was going to carry through. My design might have changed, but for all intents and purposes, let's just say it wouldn't have changed. But so exercise 2, I made 3 planes that were all just like interlocking, going across. You'll see it on screen. And yeah, there's not much to say about that besides it took a while. I ended up cutting a lot of foam core incorrectly, stuff like that. You live and you learn. You live and you learn. Also, for the Kemper Amphitheater and the International Student Center, that was also my first all-nighter, not to flex, but it wouldn't be my last. Okay, so that's enough about exercise 2. It was just, there. It was 3 planes, not much to talk about. It was pretty simple. It wasn't too bad, at least with our professor. Other professors had different requirements. Exercise 3, that was a little bit trickier. We had to pull basically elements from our planes out to an invisible cube around our model and basically design with that on the faces. The problem was my project was just symmetrical all the way. So trying to make something that was asymmetrical, just kind of hurt my soul a lot. I did not want to do it. I did it. It looked good. I think it looked great. I figured out how to make a 3-point miter from 3 parts. I made my own method and didn't use the one that's already established because I'm an idiot sometimes. But it came out super clean and in some regards came out stronger, but it was a lot more tedious to make anyways. Well, it wasn't stronger, it was easier to put together, but it was a lot more tedious to make, if that makes sense. Tedious to cut, but easy to place in place afterwards. But yeah, so that project went well. I just got the symmetry down, made it asymmetrical, and then used different of my geometric patterns that I had before, and then just pulled them out onto the faces. Exercise 4, that was a long one. That was a continuation of exercise 2 and 3. So we basically took the cube from exercise 3, which had the planes from exercise 2, obviously, and we took that cube and we put it onto a spatial field, and then we just yoinked it out. We just pulled it out into the field and made it look, cohesive. My study models, I ranged from a billion designs. I'll show you right now. There's this first one. It's kind of quadcopter design. You can see here it had the 4 different pods, and then it like hovered over the landscape. But my professor was like, it's too stationary, and I agreed. Unfortunately, this happened like the week before Thanksgiving, and it happened really late in the week. If I'm not mistaken, it was Friday that I talked to my professor, and she was like, yeah, I think you should start again, go forward with your new design, and do that, basically. So Thanksgiving, I went to my grandparents' house, and I couldn't bring my project with me. At least it was very difficult to, because I had to fly out there. And I was like, it's not worth it for me to bring my project out. I won't get very much done, and I could end up breaking something or losing something and leaving it behind. So I made the decision to just make a small portion of it, make the moving little spaceship piece at home first. And then when I got back, I would do all the drawings and all of the rest of the model. Big mistake, but also I couldn't do very much about it. That project, I stayed up from Wednesday to Friday. I got 3 hours of sleep, 1.5 between Wednesday and Thursday, and then 1.5 between Thursday and Friday. I had to crank it out, because the week after Thanksgiving was our production week before we had to turn in our project, our final in this case, and I was just cranking it out. I had to get it done. I didn't have time to make it look good. I was just pushing out as much work as I could. Not very proud of the fact that I didn't time manage very well. Obviously, I'm doing better at that now. My projects are generally I get them done in time, hopefully. But yeah, that's how that project went. Massive all-nighter. And then semester 1 ended. And part 1 ends here, because this video would be really long.